I would say that this is one of my favorite games on my shelf today. Today we're going to talk about An Age Contrived, a 1 to 5 player game published by Bellow Intent in 2024 and designed by Chris Matthew. Now, why would you want to learn about this game? Well, the first thing you're going to notice about it is that the components are absolutely extravagant. It looks like a very thematic game with miniatures and magnetic pieces and a lot of 3D components on the board, yet the game is actually very richly mechanical with very deeply strategic design elements. The game has very little luck involved with no dice, no cards, and an exceptional degree of interaction. Furthermore, the game is also quite complex, so the whole profile of the game is rather extreme. But if that's what you're into, like I am, this is a game you definitely want to learn about. So here's how I'm going to structure this review. First, I'm going to do about a 5-minute overview of the game's core loop by presenting just 2 turns of gameplay. It is a complex game, so you'll have to bear with me, but even the rulebook attests that the best way to learn the game is to just play the game, so I think you'll learn a lot just from those 2 turns. After that, I'm going to tell you what I find really exciting about this game, as well as some of the reasons why you might not like it. So let's first take a look at the core loop. An Age Contrived is a fairly complex game, so we're not going to go into all the rules, but simply demonstrate a few turns to give you an idea of the flow of the game. This is a game about the gods influencing the physical realm. This is represented by binding energy tokens to monuments and pillars of civilization. In simpler terms, my objective is to fix as many of these tiles as I can to the board for scoring at the end of the game. The catch is, I also have to use these tiles to perform my actions, so take a look. On my turn, I can spend as many energy tiles as I want to perform the actions underneath them. I can do these actions in any order. I want to perform this action first, so I have to exhaust an energy above it. This action lets me deploy energy from any one card, or transmuter tile in the terminology of the game, in either of these 2 positions. I'll take both energies from this card and put them in monument sections. I'll put one in a matching space here, and in this one, you'll notice that this monument section has only 1 space left, so I'll leave my tile upright as a reminder that I've completed this monument section. Completed monument sections are evaluated at the end of the turn, but for now, I have a few more things I want to do. This action will let me buy upgraded transmuter tiles or rearrange energy. Buying a transmuter tile is simple, and I could do it up to 2 times after exhausting the energy, and I would simply exchange a tile from the market with one of my own. However, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to rearrange 2 energies. I'll place 1 flower here, completing it, and another flower here, also completing it. Finally, for my last action, I can exhaust this energy to deploy the energy on one of these 2 cards, which doesn't do any good because I don't have any energy tiles on them, or I can flip over my channel marker. I'm going to do that. You'll see what the channel marker does in the next example turn. Now that my turn is over, it's time to resolve the completed monument sections. Completing a monument section involves every player who contributed, so during this phase of a turn, a lot can happen. It's up to the active player to determine the order that they're resolved in, so I'm going to start with the Iridonic Gate. Beginning clockwise from my left, every contributing player is going to receive 2 benefits, the first of which is a choice between the benefit associated with that monument or the depicted energy tiles, and then the second benefit is to activate all of the energy tiles in that section. So the green player is going to build a bridge. The bridge comes from their player board and can go anywhere on the main board. Next, they can activate their energy, and each energy type has a different effect. This type of energy allows the player to put it back on any one of their transmuter tiles. They're going to put it here. The pink player is also going to build a bridge. The compass energy allows the player to immediately deploy the energy to another monument. She'll place it here. Finally, I also want to build a bridge, but I won't get to activate my energy tile. Instead, my energy is going to be bound to the monument for the rest of the game. This is one of the primary ways of scoring points. The next section I choose is the Library of Valduin. This is evaluated the same as before, but it has a different benefit. The green player is going to advance their character 4 times on the main board. For character movement, players can move throughout the map to try to get bonuses for landing on bridges. Whenever they get to a fork in the road, they can choose to go in any direction except back the way they came. So the green player is going to go down here. When it gets to my turn, I'm going to take the other option. Instead of advancing 4 times, I'm going to take 2 energy tiles. I figure I'll be needing them because I'm already binding so much energy to the board this turn. The last monument is evaluated the same as before, but it's worth noting that even though I have 2 energy, I get the available benefit only once. So in this case, I'm going to take a conduit token and add it to my board. This is a player board upgrade, and you're going to see how conduit tokens work in the next example turn. So now it's green player's turn. Whenever you don't want to do any actions, or you don't have enough energy to perform actions, you can use your turn to advance. This means taking 1 transmuter tile, adding it to your device, moving everything to the right, and filling it with energy from your personal supply. Optionally, you can flip your channel marker to perform this step again. Using the channel marker is a great way of getting more energy onto your device faster. However, in this case, the green player doesn't want to advance again because he wants to utilize the benefit of the conduit token. See how the icon on the conduit token matches the transmuter tile? This will give me a free action for each match. So in this case, I have 2 matching movement icons, so I can advance twice with my character. As I advance, I'll step on the bridge, which gives me another benefit. The bridge will allow me to upgrade an action. So, as an example, if I upgrade with this action, instead of taking energy from 1 card as I was doing earlier, I can take energy from 2 cards. The green player will choose that. Furthermore, the green player has triggered their unique player power. Whenever they move into a new region, they get to rearrange the conduit tokens on their board. So, by taking the movement conduit token and moving it back here, on the next turn, when the green player advances using the channel marker, they'll get to perform movement for free again. So that's how the game goes, with players continuing to take one of 2 turns, either spending their energy tokens to perform actions or advancing the tiles on their player board, and they continue doing this until the last monument is completed. At that point, points are tallied up and the person with the most victory points wins. Now, there are a lot of ways to actually score victory points in this game. I did not talk about the achievements that are involved, the personal objectives that can be involved, or even the pillars of civilization. However, I think to understand the gist of how this game is played, it suffices to say that the game boils down to getting a balance between binding your energy to the board and using your energy in order to optimize that engine there. So the other stuff you saw in the game, the upgrades to your player board, improvements to your actions, the purchasing of the transmuter tiles, all of that stuff just helps you towards that end of binding more energy, and then sometimes you can get points because of achievements that are associated with that. So, why do I love this game? Well, first of all, this is just like the ideal profile for me. I love games with rich mechanics, strategic depth, a high degree of interaction, and very low luck. I also really like high complexity games. It's all of that stuff. But the game is more than that to me. It's not just that it hits all of the right points. The game is very special because I think this game is exceptional in how it achieves replayability. In this game, every game is different on a number of points. First of all, in setup, there are several achievements that come out. Those are always different. And the next part is the monuments get assigned these benefits that are really going to determine where you focus your energy when you are like literally deploying your energy. Because some monuments are going to give you benefits that are more in line with the achievements and more in line with your player powers. So depending on that mix, player power, achievements, and monument benefits, there's going to be a different focus every single time. And then what it does is it presents a problem space that is so fun to solve. It is that situation of, do I pursue my personal objectives, or do I take advantage of the opportunity that is in front of me right now? And it's very hard to find that balance. That is the kind of challenge that really tickles my brain. I love that. And then when you set it up and you play another time, it's completely different. The replayability of this game is off the charts. I love that about it. And then in my collection, this game has more extravagant components than any other. This is my most beautiful game. I actually painted the miniatures to complement its beauty. The magnetic pieces, the azul type tiles, the components are so satisfying to play with. And usually that's something I ignore. That is something that I'm willing to sacrifice. But to have a game that is all of that and then is so gorgeous, that's a real prize to me. I could go on listing things that I like about the game, but it's often the case that something that one person likes is what another person does not like. These next 4 things are things that I still do enjoy about the game, but are going to be more likely hang-ups for other people. The first is that this is a very forward-thinking game. The things that you do on your turn aren't going to pay off for 1 or 2 turns later. In the example turns that you just watched earlier in the video, for instance, I did not stress how much thought could go into deciding which type of energy to put on your transmuter tiles. Or another example is deciding which route to take as you're moving your character over the map, or for something like using your unique player power, like the green player, deciding where to put that conduit tile can be a very difficult decision. You're not going to know until a later turn when you advance where that's going to be useful. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be paying off later, and it can be very paralyzing to have so much to think about. That can cause a hang up in the game. It can also cause it to slow down quite a bit. If you're playing with the right group, I think they're really going to enjoy how deep this can be, but it might not be for everyone. The second thing is that if you are a Euro board gamer like me, you might not be accustomed to the degree of interaction that this game has. I mean, every turn, whenever a monument is completed, every player who contributed to that monument section is going to have a benefit, and they're going to be performing it in clockwise order, starting with the person after you. So you're completing a monument tile, and by the time it comes around to you to get the benefit, somebody may have already sort of intercepted your plan. Personally, I think that's really fun. It creates a lot of surprises in gameplay, and it gives you a lot more to think about, which I enjoy. I also appreciate that the surprises aren't dependent on luck, but on other players' actions. Yet, that might be a little too overwhelming for people who aren't accustomed to very interactive games. The third thing is, I alluded to this at the very beginning, the game looks very thematic, and it's really not. This is a very mechanical game. There isn't even a lot of lore. I mean, I can read you the lore for one of these characters. This is the Moltenek. Obsessively inventive, he builds and perfects the instruments of technological advancement, making new achievements possible for gods and mortals alike. That's the flavor text. That's the entire flavor text. It's 2 sentences long. There's no story in this. There are no missions. It is just that each player has a different power, and the powers are all just mechanical powers. This sort of thing is not an issue for me at all. I very rarely go after thematic games, but if that's what you were looking for, you're not going to find it in this one. And then lastly, while I always give the warning about a game possibly being too complex, this one also has a bit of a steep learning curve. Reading this rulebook was a bit more challenging because there was some terminology in it that was confusing at first. For example, in the game, you deploy and you bind energy. Well, it took me several read-throughs before I finally got it. Deploy means putting an energy on a monument section or the tile pool or an achievement, whereas bind is something that occurs either when a section is completed or when you're advancing up these tracks for the Pillars of Civilization or the Monuments tracks, which is, I'm not even going to go into that in this rule, but like the terminology in the rulebook was a little tough. There's also another very surprising mechanic in this game that when I read it, I didn't get it. I had to look it up to make sure I understood correctly. It's called Monument Patron Tokens, and after you've contributed or once you've bound 2 energies to the same monument, you can take a monument patron token, and then for the rest of the game, whenever you advance your track, you can just instantly complete monument sections. You can do it whether or not anybody has contributed to it, and you can do it even if you're the only one who's contributed to it. So it's a way of depriving your opponents of rewards, and the reason it's really there is a means of accelerating the game. Now, I do really like this mechanic. I enjoy that you have the option of accelerating towards the finish, and that's actually something that in the groups that I've played it, we've opted to do that, but it was weird. So just a few things. If you were going to learn this game, I would recommend you start after you buy it to watch a video tutorial that goes in depth with the rules, because it was a bit challenging and it's very new. And I guess that's one more thing that I will end on, is that I have never played a game that does it quite like this before. This game has so much more than a conveyor belt, because it has this monument completion where contributors are all getting a benefit. That's such a strange, new, and refreshing design element. I really like it, but it was a challenge to learn. So, wonderful game. I would say that this is one of my favorite games on my shelf today. It's something that I keep wanting to take out because the replayability is so excellent, and it's just stunning. It's a masterpiece of a design. I really enjoy this personally, and whether or not it's for you, well, you can check out its profile, or you can look up theperfectboardgame.com, where all of the games that I review are rated according to the profile, and you can even find recommendations based on your specific profile, or take the Perfect Board Game quiz to find out what kinds of games you might like most. So, I will leave links in the description. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.